the unexpected. I don't even know what else to say. I think last week's podcast title should have been this week's podcast title. Welcome back, Food for Thought. Another week in the books. What the hell happened this weekend, Will Priester?
It's an every week affair at this point. I think the only thing that I can say is what you said. Expect the unexpected. Good football teams are going to lose all the time, and that's why we always, I think we've talked about this before, that while good football teams or great football teams are going to win most of their games, the talent gap isn't as big as you think it is in the NFL because everybody's a professional. And so you're going to see outlier games. You're going to see upsets. You're going to see big wins. Injuries can derail anybody's season. That's something we say all the time. And coaching can derail winning football teams. And I think we saw some bad coaching yesterday, caused some teams that probably should have won a game lose a game, which helped some other teams win. It's just so many little nuances in the NFL. And that's one of the reasons why the NFL is so interesting. So I'm gonna do a 3-sport comparison to make my point here. This is about the NFL, but in baseball, the best team isn't always going to win. And I'm saying that because, I'm a Braves fan, but the Braves were hot all year. The Phillies get hot at the end of the year, and they get into the playoffs, and it doesn't materialize. Things don't come together. Houston was not as good at the beginning of their baseball season, but they get healthy, they get guys back, and they get hot, and things kind of come together. The Brewers get hot late. The Diamondbacks were pretty good all year, but the Dodgers get put out of the play. So in baseball, a team that starts out, 1-20 could very well win a World Series. 1-20 is extreme, but it's possible. In baseball, it's very possible. In basketball, even more so, the best teams are going to win. You can almost say, okay, these 1 or 3 teams are probably going to the championship. In football, you can say that as well. However, the injury bug can certainly screw up a football team. A coach can certainly screw up a win for a football team. And I feel like in football, I feel like it's more prevalent than any other sport. Yeah, in baseball, managers will mismanage the game. In basketball, maybe a coach doesn't call a timeout or calls a timeout at the wrong time. But I feel like the players dictate more of the outcome in basketball. In football, the coach and injuries can just really screw things up. And I think we've seen we saw some injuries yesterday. We saw some bad coaching performances. And in turn, you see some teams end up losing some games that, maybe they otherwise would have won.
Yeah, a lot of memories. Memories are made when you're there for the live action.
Yeah.
In the NFL. You need tickets? Ticketmaster's got you covered. Official marketplace of the NFL. Ticketmaster gives you more ways to find the perfect seat. Interactive 360-degree map. Check out your seat. You don't want to be stuck behind one of those pillars. And if your plans change, Ticketmaster gives you more flexibility to sell or transfer your tickets. Check out Ticketmaster.com/NFL. That's Ticketmaster.com/NFL. And one of the memories I'd like to delete from yesterday is the London game. But that's not even the most important outcome. There were two really big upsets. 2 head upsets in the National Football League that were head and shoulders, larger than any other ones. At the New York Jets against the Philadelphia Eagles. Huge win. Shout out to the Jets fans. You guys have been through a hellish season. The 4th snap of the year or whatever it was. What a roller coaster. The defense is legit. Legit. You didn't even have your 2 starting corners. We talked about AJ, and I got a lot wrong this week. I got slaughtered in the prop game. It was just a weird week, and you just have to take those on the chin. But if we got anything right last week, we talked about AJ Brown, and then we recorded last Monday. Then as the week kind of progressed, DJ Reed's out. Oh, Sauce Gardner's sick. Oh, he's not going to play. And then he jumped on Twitter and said he was healthy enough to play, and A.J. Brown shot him a gif or whatever, and whatever. Regardless, you look at the team box score, and it looks like the Eagles outplayed the Jets. Yards per play, holding the Jets in yards per play. It sounds so generic and coach speak of me, but turnovers and red zone scoring. And the Eagles on paper are, the Eagles and the 49ers are the two most talented teams in the NFL on paper. You turn the ball over, and Jalen Hurts is incredible athlete, incredible quarterback. And you talk about the talent gap collectively, team to team, how it's not gigantic. But the quarterback position, it's rare to find a really good franchise-changing quarterback. Yeah. So I think at specific positions, like the gap, the skill gaps are exposed more, and quarterback is really important. And I'm just stirring the pot here a little bit. But at what point do we have to start, thinking about Jalen Hurts' decision making? 7 interceptions this season already, Chief. He's thrown picks in 4 out of 6 games so far, which is fine because you want to see him push the ball downfield, right? In that style of offense and taking some shots. I don't know. Turnovers, Achilles heel for the Eagles yesterday. Big win for the Jets. And like you said, good football teams will lose. It's the Eagles' first blip on the radar of the season. And they'll rebound and get it together. I have no doubts about that. Plus, they're missing Jalen Carter, too. Big loss there last week. His void was definitely felt.
Yeah, for sure. So here's the thing. Turnovers absolutely cost him this game, and just a barrage of weird incidents, right? So let's go through, because for me, man, believe it or not, I like going through the progression of the game sometimes when I'm like, what happened here? And I was watching that game. But so they opened it up with the scoring drive, 9 minutes and 47 seconds, touchdown scoring drive. The Jets respond to that with a field goal drive, right? Okay, so they go 4 minutes, 52 seconds. The next ensuing possession, we get a Jalen Hurts interception. That was intended for Dallas Goedert. Then we get turnover on downs for the Jets. Then we get another touchdown scoring drive for the Eagles. So they're leading 14-3. The Jets come back, put together an 8-play, 51 drive, 3 minutes. They get a field goal out of it. Here we go. Eagles get the ball back. So here's what's about to happen, Luuch, if you watch that game. They were about to get points out of that deal. This is coming down to the end of the second quarter. The Eagles were about to get points out of this deal, right? And then a fumble occurs by Mr. Swift. And I was watching the game. A fumble occurs, the Jets get it. They turn that into, and it was about 2 minutes left around that point, right at the 2-minute warning. They turn that into a field goal. So, Luuch, why am I saying this, right? You talked about the turnovers. This was going to be a 17-6 game or a 21-6 game. They were already going to get the field goal. They were there pretty much, they were about there with a minute 40 left. Like, they were going to get in the field goal. They weren't going to punt the ball, right? Okay. Instead, they have a turnover. We end the half at 14-9. Now, why is that important, Luuch? Why is this important? They end up losing 20-14. Luuch, they didn't score any points in the second half. Turnovers. Now, if this thing is 17-9 and then 17-12, the Eagles are playing with a slightly different game plan, right? But it just went bonkers for them. Like, no points in the second half. 2 interceptions in the second. Just bad quarterback play in bad spots. Because I'm not going to say he didn't play well in certain spots. Like, certain spots of this game, Hurts looked like a world beater. But in the second half, to not have any points, and they did have a missed field goal in the second half. Don't get me wrong, right? They had a missed field goal, and it was a 37-yarder at that. Like that's the kind of stuff that loses football games. You see what I'm saying, Luuch? So I'm going to say this, and I'm going to shut up and get out of the way because I've been hogging the mic here. You missed 3 points at the end of about the end of the first half. You miss another 3 points in the second half, a chip shot basically. That's 6 points. You see, and so now we're looking at a possible overtime game where they could probably pull it off, get their heads together, or a slightly different scenario where they have slightly different game calling because of the scoring situation. All of those things definitely impact the game in a big way. And so for me, when I looked at this game, they just had a barrage of miscues, and that cost them playing the Jets.
Well, they held the Jets 2 of 11 on third down. I mean, you look at some of those numbers, and it just comes down to the turnovers, like you said. That's what it comes down to. You talk about play calling and a neutral game script, but big kudos to the Jets' defensive line. The Eagles have the best offensive line in football. They had less than 35 rushing yards between the running backs. So I understand if there was no success on the ground, but Philly completely abandoned, trying to get that run game going. And Hurts threw the ball 45 plus times. That's not when Jalen Hurts is at his best. And clearly the play action wasn't as effective because he didn't get the ground game going either. It was one of those games, like you said. So, yeah. But, taking nothing away from the Jets, they took advantage of those opportunities where the Eagles shot themselves in the foot. I came away with a huge win. So I don't doubt the Eagles will get it together. But you look at some of these numbers now and you scratch your head, and we're going into week 7, and Jalen Hurts has a pick for every week going into week 7. So I don't know. But of course, we know how scary this offense is when it gets going. In the beginning, it was A.J. Brown was quiet. He flipped out. Now he's getting a ton of targets. Now Devontae Smith has kind of been MIA for a while. But
that's the A.J. Brown effect. Like, and to me, God, I feel like I'm being so interruptive here. I'm so sorry. No. But the coaches got to figure out how to get both of these guys involved so that they could actually be a threatening offense. Do you get what I'm saying? Like, if teams know that both of these guys are going to burn us every game, then you're going to have more holes. Like, I feel like A.J. Brown has complained, and now they're just kind of forcing him the ball. Guess what, Luuch? He should be getting 10 targets a game. But Devontae Smith should be getting probably also 10 targets a game or somewhere close. Now, look, Devontae Smith had some timely drops yesterday, Luuch. So, look, still, once again, they had a barrage of miscues. He dropped some balls he should have caught yesterday. A bunch of things happened, right, in that game for them to lose it. They lost the game. The Jets didn't win the game. And I'm not saying the Jets should not have won. Don't get me wrong. Their defense has been fine. That's why Jalen Hurts probably played so bad. I saw some clips where they had these simulated pressures on him, and he's feeling like the pocket's caving in and collapsing. He's letting it go. He's getting he didn't have a huge rushing performance yesterday. The Jets did their job, but Philly also lost this game with so many miscues.
I'd like to see schematically, I'd like to see some more jet sweep motion threats, even if it's in the wrinkles there with A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. But, A.J. Brown is so good with the football in his hands, and we see more of this, jet sweep receiver, pre-snap receiver in motion, even if it's kind of a little bit of another play action look. But I think that wrinkle could be really effective if they start incorporating something like that. And A.J. Brown, doesn't have a carry, didn't have a carry last year either, I don't think. But he's so good in space that you have to at least honor that. Suddenly you put that on tape. You give him 1 or 2, like maybe he gets 1 carry a week, and then it's on tape. And then the defense has to be ready for that. And that 1 carry could be a home run. So
yeah,
I'm kind of like would hope Philly thinks about using him just another way to get him the ball in space. That way, if he doesn't get those 10 targets, he's still involved and he shuts up. But not only that, he's electric when he has the ball in space. So that would be really cool to see a new little dynamic there in that offense. But I guess I could only hope. So
yeah,
big win for the Jets. Gotta love it. Anything else on that one?
No.
So how about the 49ers?
Listen, I'm actually probably more shocked that the Jets lost than the 49ers lost. Let me tell you why. So, and this is not a knock on the 49ers as a team. Their team is fine. But Deebo Samuel goes out, and this is by far probably the toughest game they've had to play in. It's not like they were in San Francisco and lost. They were in Cleveland in slightly bad conditions, right? Wet ball. I think everybody's probably seen the highlight now where you've got Brock Purdy just trying to throw the ball and it slips out of his hands. He fell on it. They didn't lose the ball at that point. But I think that speaks to the reality of the weather conditions in that game. And then Christian McCaffrey gets hurt. Deebo Samuel gets hurt in the first half. And then lo and behold, the Browns are sitting back here saying, wait a minute. They don't have all of these. They don't have 2 of their bigger weapons. And they were just able to kind of tee off here and make Brock Purdy a little bit uncomfortable. Look, Brock Purdy doesn't even get them in the field goal range without a pass interference call late in that game. They could have easily been done. So my point is, I don't want to read too much into the 49ers loss. I'm less shocked. Game conditions, losing 2 of your best players, in the middle of the game. Once again, injuries, and they lost because they missed a field goal at the end. They very well could have won this game 20-19. Moody goes up there, shanks a 30-something yard or 40-yard or whatever. Same thing for Jake Elliott. Once again, points matter. And this is why I say that take the points whenever you can get them. You don't know if you're going to have that opportunity again. So, Luuch, for me, I'm more shocked that Philly lost because I felt like they were a much better team. You know how I feel about the Browns. I actually think the Browns are a good football team, and their defense showed up yesterday. Conditions, players hurt, recipe for a disaster for the 49ers. Once again, 49ers still should have won. Not overlooking that. A missed field goal cost them, but Browns, come out triumphant.
25 penalties in that game, too. Just a slop fest of a football game.
Yeah.
And right now, from what I'm reading Monday here, a lot of uncertainty about McCaffrey's situation. Really nothing yet. We don't know yet. A lot of injuries on Sunday and a lot of injuries that we don't know the timetables of or the significance of just yet. But, those definitely were some big ones. It looks like an oblique for McCaffrey. So we'll see. Interesting stuff there, but hell of a win. PJ Walker, what can you say? Got thrown in that situation, got a huge win. The Browns were 9.5 point dogs. So just massive win. Massive win.
Yeah.
Whenever Deshaun Watson decides to play football again, we'll see what kind of shape the Browns are in. But big ups to that defense regardless.
Yeah.
Yet the injuries are a huge elephant in the room. I guess I'll just break up our little game by game recap with Justin Fields has a thumb issue.
And they lost 19-13. Now, Fields didn't look good yesterday. Don't get me wrong. I for some reason, I don't know what was going on. It looked bad. They were just a bad offense. DJ Moore wasn't getting the ball. I don't know what that was, but they still only lost 19-13. I got to think some way, somehow, if he's in the game late, they find ways to make plays. But once again, the Bears have been a bad football team most of the year outside of 2 really explosive weeks. Vikings got the monkey off their back yesterday without one of their weapons in Justice Jefferson, who's also hurt. He's on the IR. So, look, injuries, man, can just slow you down big time.
Yeah. We got more updates on Anthony Richardson, and it looks like they're considering season-ending surgery. That's terrible for just the organization and him progressing. And
let's go back to the London game. Tannehill goes out of the game. More injuries there. Now, once again, he wasn't playing fantastic, but, I mean, just injuries. They can just really screw the pooch.
That's an interesting situation because you're 2-4. You got the bye week coming up. The first 4 offensive possessions in that game for red zone trips all ended up in field goals, both sides. Tennessee and Baltimore have historically good red zone defense right now. It's about 20% less of a touchdown skew than the best red zone defense last season was the Rams, surprisingly, in terms of giving up touchdowns. So I thought we'd see some regression. Neither team could punch it in early, and we got hooked on that 40.5 total there. That was pretty brutal. But
it's okay.
But the problem is here. That division is, the Jaguars are separating with a huge win. You're 2-4. The back half of the Tennessee schedule is winnable. They have some games that should be competitive. They have Carolina's, no offense. Carolina is winnable. Who knows who's going to win that game? Carolina's on the schedule. You still have a bunch of divisional games. Atlanta after the bye. I'm not saying that it's, Tannehill should play because I don't think that is the logical answer right now. It's his contract year. Maybe they move him if he's healthy. That's the other thing. Contract year. That was kind of a bad scenario there in terms of, if Tennessee's going to sell, who knows how bad that ankle or that foot is. And he's coming off an injury last season. And I don't think he was completely right. We know what Tannehill is. Good game manager, needs to play action, good when he has a clean pocket. Father time has caught up. He cannot extend a play at all. He's a statue. I don't know, that mobility we saw 2, 3, 4 years ago, completely gone. He can't even wiggle around in there anymore. And it's 2023, and we talked about this. You need a quarterback with at least a little wiggle back there to go off script. And he brings none of that. And he was great when he took over for Mariota. And maybe I'm getting some of those vibes. I don't know. Malik Willis came in and as good of a preseason as he had, and he definitely improved. And Tennessee knew, the NFL knew that he was a project quarterback, and he's shown a little bit of improvement. But the biggest issue with Malik Willis still, Chief, is he will not cut loose. He doesn't trust what he sees, and he doesn't rip the football. Will Levis, for whatever reason, maybe he outplayed Will Levis, and Levis was a little dinged up in camp. But Malik was, he won that second quarterback job. My thing is, okay, not looking great for Tennessee. Probably not going to be the worst team in the league. You're not going to be in the Caleb Williams sweepstakes. But, you might have 8, 9, 10 pick. Who knows at this point? They got 2 weeks to prepare. Personally, I would love to see what they have out of Will Levis. I think the entire world wants to see what Will Levis can bring to the NFL after the whole draft, all the steam. Well, maybe he goes 2 overall or 3 overall. He slips to the second round. And, Will Levis, he's kind of a mystery. He's got that size. He has a quick release. He's got the cannon. His decision-making, I don't know. Is he going to be able to read defenses? I don't know. But he certainly brings that, dynamic in the pocket, mobility-wise, that Tannehill just doesn't have anymore. But what I would like to see, I think you have to get Will Levis in there. The Titans know where Malik Willis is at. They've seen a great deal of him. If you're playing NFL preseason DFS, he was playing every snap of every game pretty much.
Yeah,
they know what they have at this point. So if you want to kind of start seeing, you got to see what you have in Will Levis. Otherwise, it's just kind of wasted time. What are your thoughts on this situation here?
Well, this is why if I'm in the NFL, I don't want to be a quarterback. And I'm going to explain this in the best way that I can. If you don't go to a bad team, you're almost never going to get a fair shake at quarterback. Almost never, right? You're going to kind of be relegated to this backup role unless you're the Packers, where they draft for the future on purpose for you to start later, right? If you're a quarterback in the NFL like Malik Willis, like we can say Malik Willis got a fair shake, but he didn't really get a fair shake because he's never going to have an actual chance to start a full season with the organization backing him. We can talk about Trey Lance. Trey Lance is never, he got hurt, but Jimmy G's, like, you get what I'm saying? It's like most quarterbacks are never going to have a real shot at being the guy when you don't go to the Browns or the Texans or the bad Panthers now, or you know, like every team has to be really bad for the quarterback to step in. And then
timing.
Right. Like Justin Herbert. He comes in like him and two of those guys. They go to bad teams. Think about this. So for Justin Herbert and Tua to go to Miami and the Chargers, they have to be bad.
Not only that, Chief, but those guys that you mentioned, they were drafted to be the guy. And what's fascinating about these two Titans quarterbacks, the massive slide with Malik Willis, the massive slide with Will Levis, the Titans weren't bad enough. The Titans have been a good football team the past 5-6 years. Hell, they made it to an AFC championship game against Kansas City. You know, and we're the 1 seed and choked to the Bengals. We know that story.
Yeah.
This has been a pretty successful team. But it's with both quarterbacks, did the Titans go out of their way to draft their guy? They both kind of fell into the Tennessee's lap. Yes, they moved up a couple of picks to get each one of them, but just kind of the way it worked out, timing and everyone else's decisions. At that point, they said, hell, we'll see. We'll take Will Levis in the second round. But now they have to play their cards right. And we're at the point now, Chief, I think, to kind of back your point, if they go with Will Levis, they can't go back to Malik Willis. They can't be like, you know what? We'll go back to Malik Willis, right? They just can't do that. Also, you can't go back to Ryan Tannehill if he's healthy either, and you make the change.
Right. And that's what I'm saying. Like, you know, we look at these teams, and it's like, well, so Mac Jones kind of got drafted to be the guy, right? He's on a bad football team, and he's looking like he's kind of out of dodge here. Like, it's quarterbacks aren't as slam dunk as we think. I think that's the point I'm trying to make here. But the only way you get that fair shot is you got to be considered like in the top 10 coming out of college. That's the only way you get a real fair shot. That's why Caleb Williams is going to get a fair shot. They're viewing him as a top guy. Drake maybe, right? Like, and I'm not saying these quarterbacks can't be really good quarterbacks. What I'm saying is, who are going to be the teams at the end that are drafting? The Bears, the Patriots. You know, the Colts aren't going to draft a quarterback again. They've got Richardson, so I don't see them doing it. The Panthers aren't going to do it. They just picked up Bryce Young, so they're going to miss out. The Broncos are probably going to be down here at the bottom. You know, I think the Broncos are a candidate to draft a quarterback. Like, you know,
I mean, the Broncos might sell after Thursday's game, and maybe Tennessee starts selling. Derrick Henry, love him, legend, Hall of Famer, contract's up. Tajay Spears looking pretty damn good. It would break my heart to not see Derrick Henry finish the season, but from a business perspective, I mean, there's had to be some conversations. I mean, we've heard rumors before the season even started, but you mentioned the margin for error. The Titans are 2-4, and we're saying the world is falling. And regardless, like, there's a new quarterback that's going to likely start regardless due to injury. But you look at week 1 with Tennessee and the Saints, the controversial non-fumble call, right? Didn't go Tennessee's way. You know, and then this Titans team would be 3 and hypothetically could be 3-3, and you're probably not having that conversation yet at 3-3. But boy, 2-4, major difference there, especially with the way things are going, especially with Tannehill and Henry's contracts both being up. It's a very unique situation. This team has, I think, the 5th or 6th-ish most cap space into next year. It might be, honestly, it might be time to start selling after that loss. And yeah, I guess I was wrong, but you know, a couple of different breaks and it's a 500 team, but we will see what happens, man. But you're right. Timing is everything. A lot of quarterbacks don't get don't get a fair shake. I mean, speaking of, and we're like, I don't think we need to spend a ton of time on this game, but Tyrod Taylor never got a fair shake. Like, what a journey that guy's been on. And he battles his tail off, and the Bills and Giants kind of go down to the wire in a really ugly football game, man.
Yeah, and the Giants could also be in the quarterback market in this draft. I know they just paid Daniel Jones some money, but I mean, you got a chance to get one of these other top quarterbacks. Like, I don't think we feel like Daniel Jones is a franchise-changing quarterback. You know what I'm saying? Like, and that's not anything against Daniel Jones. I just think, like what are we expecting here? The Cardinals are probably going to be in the running for another quarterback, and
hey, we talked about the dark horse. We talked about New England, and guess who added another loss to that column?
Right. That's what I'm saying. Like, and the Cardinals still have a young quarterback on their team. Like, we're just 2 seasons removed from this team looking like they were turning a corner. You know what I'm saying? Like, Kyler Murray is still, I think, a reasonably good quarterback. He's just small, but he's shifty. He's got arm talent. He could end up going somewhere else. And now one of these top-tier teams don't need a quarterback. So I'm just saying, bottom line is, if I was a football player, I wouldn't want to be the quarterback. They're not going to ever get their fair shake. Wide receivers are going to get their fair shake somewhat. Running backs are going to get their fair shake somewhat. Like, they might be in a split. It may be a committee. You come in like Rashee Rice. He comes into Kansas City. Maybe he's wide receiver 2 or 3 on the depth chart now. But he gets on the field. He produces. He gets a chance to prove himself. All of a sudden, next season he comes in. He's wide receiver 2. Maybe the next year he's wide receiver 1. Whatever. But quarterbacks, because there's only one quarterback on the field at a time, they're never going to get a fair shake unless they're the guy coming in.
Turnovers killed a lot of teams. That sounds so generic.
One more other injury here. Jimmy G,
David
Montgomery for the Raiders. David Montgomery. I mean, that's what I'm saying. Now, and the Lions still pulled off a win. But injuries, man, they can really hamper your season. All right.
Hats off to Jared Goff. I mean, you want to stick there. I mean, they got Tampa Bay off a bye, I believe. I believe Tampa's coming off a bye. So for Detroit to go on the road and stick it to them, and Jared Goff, huge game, right? Montgomery goes down. What's football guy Dan Campbell going to do when he can't feed David Montgomery 30 times? Well, Jared Goff goes over there and slings it.
Yeah, and that was on the road. That was on the road.
Right, outside.
Because remember, what was the knock on Jared Goff? Can't play on the road. You can only play at home in the dome. Well, he got it done.
Big win. Big win for Detroit. And another one, Jacksonville. Statement, 37 points. Turnovers absolutely killed Indianapolis.
And Trevor Lawrence didn't have to do too much in this game. Like, the running game got going. The defense did well. Like, so, and Lawrence also a little nicked up coming out of that game.
Yeah. 37 points. I missed on Calvin Ridley props.
Lawrence only threw for 181. That's what I'm saying. He only threw the ball 30 times.
Some of my misses were kind of similar. Jordan Addison, Kirk Cousins threw for $180. I know there were some sustained wins there, but didn't really scare me. But I lost that one too. Jamar Chase killed me. 13 targets, only 80 yards. I mean, just one of those weeks between Ridley having that salivating cornerback matchup with the Colts. So I got crushed this week. I'll go back and what's the opposite of a victory lap? A tune-up? I took a pit stop.
Yeah,
I was ahead of a lot of line movement too, multiple yards. Got early in the week. You bet props early in the week because the market moves so fast, and I got killed. I got absolutely killed. But regardless, I mean, turnovers. Gardner Minshew. We just had that backup quarterback discussion, and I saw someone in the YouTube comment said, "Hey, don't forget about Cooper Rush." Like, you know what? Cooper Rush could ball a little bit too. I'm about to slide Gardner Minshew down my rankings a little bit though after throwing 3 picks in the backup quarterback rankings. But that gift wrapped essentially the Jaguars W. Turnovers.
Yeah,
21-point second quarter for Jacksonville, creating some separation. Credit credit due where it's deserved. Jacksonville separating as they should, as the Vegas favorite and everyone's darling. Kudos to Jacksonville, and hopefully T-Law is ready to roll for next week. They play next week, right? Hold on, there's a ton of buys.
Thursday night football.
Ooh, quick turnaround.
Yep, play the Saints in New Orleans.
Hostile road environment, as they say.
Yeah,
right in the dome down there.
Mm-hmm.
Saints coming off a loss.
Oh man, the Saints just can't put it together. I mean, listen, if I told you right now Derek Carr threw for over 300 yesterday, in your mind you'd probably be saying, "Oh my goodness, the Saints must have teed off." They scored 13 points. Derek Carr threw 32 for 50, 353. Chris Olave 7 for 96. Rashid Shaheed 2 for 85. Taysom Hill. Why in the world does he have 7 catches for 49 yards? I don't know. Michael Thomas, 5 for 45. Alvin Kamara, 7 for 36. If I gave you those stats, you'd say, whoo, the Saints must have beat the brakes off of the Texans, especially if I said C.J. Stroud, 13 for 27, 199. Nico, 4 for 80. Dalton Schultz, 4 for 61. Noah Brown, 2 for 37. Robert Woods, 1 for 6. If I told you that, Luuch, you'd say, oh, the score must have been 28 to 10. No, they lost 13 to 20. Unbelievable. Plenty of production, no points to show for it. Saints should have a bad taste in their mouth. They're a 3-3 football team, and they still got a shot at this division. They're not out of it. I don't think they're worried, but they've got a shot. They need to win this game, I can tell you that. And this should be an interesting one because I don't think the Saints are bad. I just think it's growing pains. This will be a tough game for the Jaguars. The defense has been playing fine.
One more thing I want to revisit, and we'll start looking ahead, if that's cool with you. Commanders 24, Falcons 16. Big bounce back for Washington after
if
last
the Falcons don't give Heineke this job, I don't know what they're doing. Luuch, I'm just saying, you're talking about guys getting their fair shake, right? So Devin Ritter did start some games last year. He was named the starter this year. But you brought in Heineke. Now, I'm not saying Heineke is, some superstar quarterback. What I am saying is we've got Desmond Ritter. For all of Atlanta's woes where we were saying they weren't throwing the ball, Desmond Ritter threw the ball 47 times yesterday for 307 yards. Well, they were behind in that game. He threw 3 interceptions. And not only did he throw 3 interceptions, Luuch, they were all at the wrong time. One in the end zone when they were driving and about to score points. Heineke's not going to have some of these mistakes. Do you get what I'm saying? I think Desmond Ritter's costing this team some football games. Now, guess what? This is also a 3-3 football team. The Commanders are also a 3-3 football team. So it's okay, let's just go through the growing pains here. And I think that's what they're doing with Desmond Ritter. I do think Desmond should use his legs a little bit more. I think he's more Lamar Jackson than Matt Ryan. And clearly he's not Matt Ryan, but I think they've just got to get him some design plays out on the edge, some quarterback drop, something to get him in the game and keep him in safer down the distance situations instead of just handing it to Tyler Algier or Bijan. Let's get him involved in the run game. We don't want to tear up our quarterback, but take some notes from Lamar. Take some notes from Kyler Murray. These guys don't try to take big hits. They get outside, they pick up the yards, they slide it, they get out of bounds. Do that, but don't give it away. But I do think Heineke's the better quarterback here for what it's worth.
I know they had a negative game script, but receivers against Washington, Drake London, 100-plus yards, 12 targets is the most important thing there. I knew they were behind, but he got a bulk of that work. So Drake London's stock rising. Receivers against Washington, living another week in that little equation.
And guess what? I think it's going to continue to go overlooked. I don't think it's anything that people are actually going to key in on because the Commanders won this game 24-16. Shout out to them for getting Terry McLaurin involved for a change.
Yes.
6 for 81. I can accept that if you're going to give it to him consistently. We shouldn't have our actual number one guy sitting here with no volume. Come on.
Yeah, apparently Terry McLaurin does not like doing dishes. He tweets about it a lot. He doesn't like doing the dishes. I don't either, but you got to do them, Terry. That's another thing, and then we'll move on. But just looking at young quarterbacks, timing is everything. Kind of like we talked about Will Levis and Malik Willis and Ryan Tannehill. Malik Willis was a John Robinson draft pick. And a lot of people who don't really know the situation said, why the Titans trade A.J. Brown and they got DeAndre Hopkins. Different general manager, different regime. Credit Rand Carthon for going out and getting DeAndre Hopkins. And Hopkins has been great. No one can get him the damn ball. He's been fantastic this year. If they end up moving on from him, I understand. I believe he has a player option for next season. He deserves him and Henry deserve better. They deserve the best product in the field, and right now it's not Ryan Tannehill. Tannehill's a great leader. He just doesn't have it. Some of the rumors, a little bit of Twitter rumors, this and that, was potentially Ryan Tannehill to Atlanta move earlier this season, but pending Tannehill's health, that could be out the window. Plus, how much of an upgrade is he even over Desmond Ridder? I don't think he really is much of an upgrade at this point. He will take care of the ball, but is he going to give you the big plays? I don't know. He is a play-action quarterback, and that's the problem with the NFC South. That division is wide open. The football teams aren't great in that division, but Atlanta could be a division winner. But I could probably – the number of people in that building that probably think Desmond Ridder is the long-term answer is you can probably count on one hand. I mean, come on, let's be real. Like, what has he shown you by now that makes you believe this is the guy for 10 years? He might be able to win you the division this year, but it just kind of feels like that situation where, well, what's the next 10 years going to look like, right? Like, where are we going to go from here? And they're not going to be bad enough to get into Caleb Williams sweepstakes, right? So,
yeah. I mean, look, I think Desmond Ridder. So once again, it's the same situation as what I have with my Panthers. Do I think Andy Dalton is the better quarterback today? Absolutely. Without question. Andy Dalton's been around. He's a veteran, so forth and so on. But I understand with the organization, like, they've got to commit to their young quarterback and let him go through the growing pains. And so the only reason why I'm saying I think Desmond Ridder should maybe be behind Heineke right now is because Atlanta seems to be in a win-now scenario. And maybe I'm misinterpreting their stance on winning. I don't think the Panthers are in win-now mode, so I'm perfectly fine with you running Bryce Young out there every week and hoping he has tangible improvements week to week to week. When I look at the Falcons, I feel like, based on their team structure, they want to win now. And if you want to win now, I don't think Desmond Ridder gives you the best chance. And that's so that's where maybe you call it gray area, but that's my fine line. Is the team in win now mode? No? Okay. Young quarterback should be playing. No need to be running out veterans when we're not in win now mode. If the owners are going to give you time to develop, take the time, put the quarterback out there right now so he doesn't have to come in year 3 and be at a year 1 level in terms of seeing the game, experiencing the game, taking the hits, reading the defenses. He needs the experience. If you're in win now mode, always go with your best option. And I think the Falcons' best option is Heineke at this point.
But that's another situation where if you go with Heineke, you cannot go back to Desmond Ridder, though. So
unless he gets hurt.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Unless he gets hurt.
Right. And just, the Tannehill thing, who knows? I mean, maybe he will get healthy over the bye week, and maybe we'll see some more injuries, and maybe the phone will ring, and then you have another big decision to make. And, Tannehill contract's up. I mean, the offer won't be too serious in terms of draft capital. I would kind of be surprised if Tannehill wasn't moved. And if he didn't get hurt, Mike Vrabel and company probably would have stuck with him a little bit longer. And at this point, like, there's really no downside to seeing what you have at Will Levis. You look at Washington. Sam Howell's starting to show us a little bit. Like, wasn't a top 10 pick, but he has progressed, and you see some raw things that he does. Like, there's some things, but he has mobility. He's got a good arm.
But once again, who else is on that roster? See, because Heineke's gone. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
It's like,
I get it.
you do what you have to do, you know. And he was on the roster last year too, so
I get it. I felt like he was there forever. Looking ahead at this week, I mean, the NFC South has a big divisional game right there. Tampa Bay and Atlanta. That's a big game in that division. Huge.
Yeah, absolutely. Bucks at home. Baker Mayfield also came out of that game nicked up, I think, with the shoulder or something. So it's going to be interesting to see. I'm going to go ahead and give you my game of the week, and it's not the obvious game because I do think the obvious game is Chargers Chiefs for what it's worth. I feel like that's the obvious game. This game is satellite, so it's not on the main slate, but I do want to talk about it. I will be on that showdown show, but I want to see how the Eagles respond after this week losing with probably the most explosive offense in football coming to town. Like, to me, this is going to tell me who the Eagles are this week. Like last week they saw a really good defense mostly. This week they're going to see a really good offense. And so, you know, look, we saw the Dolphins go down 14-0 yesterday to the Panthers, and they didn't blink. You looked, and it was like 30-14, just like that. Boom. 21-14, excuse me. Just like that. And so I think they scored in a minute 40 seconds after it was 14-7. Big play to Tyreek, touchdown, we're out. Like, you know what I'm saying? So how do the Eagles respond this week when they will absolutely have to lean on their offense? Their defense, I don't think, because it's a week-to-week league. The Dolphins could come out and look like trash. I get it. But I don't expect them to not score this week. How do the Eagles handle the offensive pressure of knowing that Jalen Hurts has to go out here and score points this week? Like, there's no option to not score. We have to score points. How do you think they handle that? That's my game of the week from a real-life perspective. Once again, we'll be involved in that showdown set. That's what I'm salivating to talk about on next Sunday. But this is a big game. This is a big game.
They should have an opportunity to get that ground game going and get Hurts in more comfortable situations to use play action. Miami's issue will be the defensive side of the ball. No doubt the offense is high-powered and could and should go toe-to-toe with every other offense in the league. Will the Eagles' defensive line show up? I mean, because then, I think the trenches are going to dictate who's more or less comfortable to run some of this design stuff that they want to run on both sides. We know Miami likes to do some exotic stuff offensively and a lot of motion. Who knows how hurt Jalen Carter was for Philly? Who knows how hurt Darius Slay was? If they didn't turn the ball over, they would have beaten the Jets. And that was a game where they thought, well, we see who's coming into town. Next week is Miami, right? Like, we want Darius Slay for that game. We need Darius Slay for that game, no doubt. So could he have played against the Jets? Maybe. But no doubt. They almost played it, the game the right way. But at least it's a non-conference game. I get it. It's huge. But a non-conference game, still huge. We're going to find out a lot more about both teams. We'll keep uncovering some truths. And I'm expecting some points in that one too. I'm with you on that one.
Yep, for sure. Next up, who's kind of your game of the week, Luuch? I mean, that's why, like I said, I know that's off the main slate. I do have one for the main slate. This is an interesting week, honestly, for games, because outside of one game on the main slate, I don't see any game that's incredibly explosive.
Yeah.
So this is the money week. You want to earn your spot in the DFS industry. This is your money week. How do we differentiate this week to take down GPPs? Because I mean, it's nothing's going to really jump this week per se, at least not at first glance until you start digging in.
And it's a really busy bye week. A lot of teams on byes. You look at the Chargers and the Chiefs. You're going to get a lot of man coverage, a lot of passing, most likely. It should be an exciting game.
Mm-hmm.
For DFS purposes, I'm interested in this Detroit-Baltimore game, I think. I mean, Tennessee and Baltimore both moved the ball in that London game. Tennessee moved the ball. They kicked field goals again. Second straight week, they kicked field goals. They were in the red zone.
But Luuch, what I will say, once again, they lost this game 24-16. And say what you want. You keep taking points until you get the touchdowns. You got a shot. Like, they didn't lose as bad as this score looks. Trust me. You know what I'm saying? Like, you got to at least get something out of the deal, and I think they did that. Kudos to Derrick Henry. Got a nice big touchdown running that game as well. So, I think for Tennessee this week, I'm saying for Baltimore this week, Baltimore kicked 6 field goals. That's how they won this game.
Yep, they moved the ball.
They kicked 6 field goals.
I trust me, I know.
I mean, you see what I'm saying? Like, they just Harbaugh said, "Hey, let's just keep taking them, keep taking them, keep taking them, keep it." You would think they scored 3 touchdowns and a field goal. No, they kicked 6 field goals in this game. That's how they won the game.
So is this game going to be a little sneaky for DFS? Because I like it for DFS. I think that ball's going to be moving.
Yeah,
Jared Goff has showed us.
Yeah, sneaky game for sure. Absolutely.
Yeah, I just from a first glance, that's probably one of my favorites.
Now here's the next one, because here's where I think the masses are going to load up outside of a game stack. Got to be Bills' offense on the Patriots' heads right now. I mean, gosh, Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs, this combo should just thrash the New England Patriots this week, right? Like that, in terms of overall production from like a two-piece, that's got to be the handcuff of the week, I think. Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs. The Patriots' defense is, it's bad.
There's a lot of interesting spots now that I'm looking through it more. Seattle, Arizona. Could be points.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't hate that game. Here's how I feel about that game though. If Pete Carroll sniffs any blood in the water, he can dial up that running game. It's just going to kill the game script. It's going to destroy the game. Like, this is one of those games where I'm probably going to be more props than DFS. And here's what more pick 'em than DFS than salary cap. Here's what I mean by that. Please, please, please give me Kenneth Walker anywhere in the 15.5, the 16.5 rushing attempts category for this game. I'm just going to hammer the over. Like, this is one of those vintage Pete Carroll, hand it off 30 times, throw it 25 times, let's get home with a win type game. Not saying they're going to win. I'm saying I feel like that might be his approach this week.
Another sticker shock spot is we're almost at 10K Cooper Kupp territory, but this guy's came back, didn't miss a beat, alpha, peppered with targets, ton of production. A game that probably won't get a ton of attention to stack, but Cooper Kupp against Pittsburgh this week. And the Steelers, aren't fantastic on the outside. At home, Rams are at home. I think Cooper Kupp's in another spot, where that price tag is certainly getting up there. But, where does he fall in the projected ownership category? I don't know. But, boy, I think Kupp is going to continue to ball out like he never missed a beat this week.
Yeah, for sure. I can see that coming down the pipeline for sure.
And I guess Justin Fields' status is going to be critical because the Bears and the Raiders, two teams that aren't great.
Yeah, but and they might not have either starting quarterback.
Yeah, how about that? So that kind of puts a damper on, DJ Moore, Devontae Adams.
Jacoby Myers didn't have a single catch in the second half, had 5 in the first half for about 60-something yards and a touchdown. Devontae Adams not getting targeted in the offense. It's just, I don't know what's going on over there in Oakland, but Devontae Adams has got to be frustrated. I mean, he got 1 target in the first half, Luuch. 1. That's insane. What in the world? Unbelievable.
Yeah. I don't know, man. One thing for sure is Josh Jacobs, bell cow territory again. Didn't have any, fantastic numbers, but he had over 20 carries for the second straight week. So that, just from a volume standpoint, Josh Jacobs, in play every week.
Yeah.
Good to see Saquon Barkley back. And speaking of bell cow, he had 24 carries last week. right? I mean, that's coming back. New York's like, we're getting our money's worth out of you, buddy. We paid you.
Say what you want. The Giants look better with Tyrod at quarterback. Now, the game plan was more simplified. Mind you, having Saquon helped, but Tyrod didn't take a lot of risk last night, right? Had a couple of timely throws to Slayton down the sideline. And see, here's the thing, Luuch. See how they protected him? Tyrod, we're gonna. I'm sure they worked in some of these plays down the sideline, outside, where if the receiver doesn't catch it, it's not an interception. Why don't we do this with Daniel Jones? Like, we can protect the quarterback some, right? And once again, Saquon was back, so it certainly helped. But Saquon didn't do anything in the first half. I think he had 10 carries for 20 yards. Like, he didn't do anything. So he had a couple big runs at the end with some trap plays, which really helped his yardage totals. But Saquon didn't do much in this game. You know?
Just from looking at a quick glance at spreads and totals, I'm looking at that Detroit-Baltimore game. Opened at 45, now it's 42. And I like that over now that it's down a couple of points. Like I said, you can move the ball in Baltimore, and they're going to move the ball in their own right. Yeah. Baltimore's been very good in the red zone offensively. They've been historically elite defensively, and I just don't think it's sustainable. I don't. Yeah. So no doubt the defense is pretty good, but I don't think it's an elite defense. So I like the over 42 in that Detroit-Baltimore game. I have to do a little more homework and maybe write that one up for scores and odds. Yeah. Anything catching your attention from a spreads and totals standpoint to kick off the week? Buffalo 9-point favorite over New England. Divisional game. Funny things happen between those teams. I'm probably not going to go there. And wow, the Giants and Commanders, 1.5 points. Giants are 1.5 point home dogs right now. Interesting. That's an interesting matchup with the 1-5 Giants and 3-3 Commanders. Huh. What would a loss What would a loss do for the Commanders? I mean, they're going to play to be in that that hunt, right? Likely a wild card hunt. The Giants. Yeah. The Giants with a loss would be 1-6. Is that right?
So here's what I will say. I definitely think the Falcons need to win more than the Commanders. And hear what I'm saying? I'm not saying the Commanders need to win, but I think the Falcons have a more likely shot to win a division than the Commanders do. I still don't think the Commanders are better than the Cowboys or the Eagles. And so I think it's more important for the Falcons to keep winning because they could very well sneak it and win their division. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, that makes total sense. Give me one more that you're looking at before we start closing up and getting out of here.
Let's see here.
52.5 in the Eagles-Dolphins game. That's probably a good line. Don't know if I know it's early, but a lot of the money's on Philly -2.5. It's very early in the week, but Scores Now says 85% of the money and about an even split number of bets. So right now the money is in on Philly.
Let me say this. As crazy as this sounds, I think I actually take the Bills at -9 here. I think they can win by more than a touchdown and a field goal. Yes, the Patriots, they scored a little bit on the Raiders yesterday, but the Bills are still a much tougher defense, and the Bills are absolutely more explosive than the Raiders right now. I think I like the Bills minus, and I usually don't take favorites that high on the road, but I think this is a good spot here. I'm expecting the Bills, especially after this ugly-looking game against the Giants. I think they come out ready to go here. They're a week back now from being out of the country, a whole extra week to settle in, get more prepared. I think they roll here.
Yeah, I like that.
Man, I hope we can get this thing down to 8.5. Wouldn't that be nice?
It opened at 8.5, so I don't know. I don't know if we're going to see it. So we'll see. I wouldn't be shocked if that thing's 10.5 by next weekend. So if you're thinking Buffalo, jump on it early. Hit me with a story time, Chief.
Well, once again, I said story time is going to be kind of about the wedding, and so my beautiful fiance, I think she picked up her veil over the weekend, and she was excited about that. We've been incredibly busy and trying to make sure everything is on track for that. And so I think this week we've kind of got most of our people to submit their menu choice for what we're going to have. So let's talk about that. We're going to have a Charleston crab cakes. That's one option for those that like crab cakes. That's one option with some mashed potatoes and like a corn succotash. And then another option is we're going to have what they call a bone-in airline chicken with roasted garlic potatoes, and so forth and so on. So those are like our two options. Of course, they'll have sweet tea or water or whatever you want to drink. But hopefully it ends up being pretty good. We almost went with the lemon herb chicken, but we decided to go a little bit more traditional. So it, didn't. More people would be probably more into more traditional chicken than lemon herb. But I guess that's kind of story time, man. A little GPP food of the day, Chiefs wedding food, if you will.
Yeah, how was the taste testing going on? How was everything?
Yeah, it was good. It was good. Cake's good. Food's good. I mean, no complaints here. No complaints here.
Awesome stuff, buddy. Let's wrap it up. Another week in the books, food for thought. Thanks for sticking with us. Of course, if you're new to the show, you get a little bit of DFS and a little bit of betting, but on a Monday, we're just here to break down some stuff we saw, since there's not a ton of analysis out there just yet. A little bit of barbershop talk here, whatever you want to call it. Thanks for sticking with us. Tune in next week. Like and subscribe to RotoGrinders YouTube channel. For the Chief Will Priester, I'm the Luuch. Good luck, everybody.